supporting people affected with COVID-19 in your community. Acknowledge the role they play to save lives and keep your loved ones safe. Need help and support? Please contact us at the hotline 311, psychosocial support at 722-6575 or 518-4157. Brought to you by PAHO, the OACS Commission, and UNICEF.
I can't stay.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the show. It is Wednesday, June 16th, 2021. I am very, very happy to be here with you as always. I want to thank you for joining us. If you are watching us on the different social media platforms where we are every weekday from 11, as you know, we are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, and so many others, and we're going to be adding a few more, and we're being streamed there live, as I said, as always. Also, if you are, more traditional in a sense and you're still watching on television, we appreciate that too, or channel 124 on Flow, that's underground television. Thank you very much for being with us, and we cannot forget those of you locked in on radio, wherever you are. Some of you driving, the minibus drivers, some of you listening, others, I don't know, were you going to lunch maybe early, or if you are sneaking away from work and just listening to us, I appreciate that too, for listening to us on our radio partner station, that's Hits FM 92.1 and 91.1 FM. I also have shout-outs, Cagney's Bar, to the people there as well. I hear you guys are always watching and listening. Thank you very much. Also to the Felix Bar in Dennery, and to all the people there who continue. Well, I hear there are fights because some people want to watch their tennis, but some people saying, no, I want to watch Tresha, so they have to quarrel, and I guess whatever creative way that the competition is to see who gets to watch whatever channel they want to, and I hear that it's normally me. So thank you very much for that. We have to go back to the issue of where we are with elections, and I think we're now on our 10th day into the 6th year of what is supposed to be a 5-year term with this administration. So there's a countdown, and if you are not feeling it, maybe ou pas vivant, ou pas la terre, but people know that something is off, something is wrong, and we don't know. Some of us do know, maybe can speculate on what exactly the Prime Minister is thinking. Why is he taking so long to call it? And more importantly, why are we allowing it? But I think in all of that, the uncertainty of what elections, what the campaigning, what voting would look like, I think we need to look at that as well. So I encourage everybody to get your documentation in order to make sure that you are able to vote. So even, yes, with all the pans and all the noise and all of the people expressing their way in the most peaceful way that they can, which I have to say that I admire, and I have to commend St. Lucians for doing mostly what has to be done within the confines of the law, within the remits of it, except for that guy who was trying to run over some other people. And I saw another vehicle try to do the same, again, with United Workers' Party supporters in it. But like I was saying, we have to make sure that we know the facts. There are documents, and yes, the scandals seem to be going on forever. In the 5 years, I lose track of the things that have been done that are just, so against what we consider good governance. And with the latest one, this Bajoa, which I will not let rest, and I don't think you should either, we need to keep that in mind. But even as we do so, and even as we're eager for a change, I think knowing where we are supposed to be with campaigning and with voting, that too is important. So we have to look back at what things were, what was being said by the Prime Minister then, and what obtains now.
Could St. Lucians go to the polls under a state of emergency? If so, how will this impact traditional election activities? The Prime Minister recently affirmed that contrary to speculation by the opposition and its supporters, the recent extension of the SOE to October 16th will not stand in the way of general elections.
How is the state of emergency going to stop the election from taking place, Mr. Speaker? Since when a state of emergency affects it? When in St. Kitts they had a state of emergency, did it affect them in having an election? When Jamaica had a state of emergency, did it affect them having an election? When Trinidad and Tobago had elections with a state of emergency, did it affect them having an election, Mr. Speaker? The answer is no. Categorically. Okay, Mr. Speaker? It does not impede the ability to have an election.
This assertion may be surprising to many given previous declarations by the Prime Minister in July of 2020.
My party would never, hear this, never consider and never have elections during a state of emergency. Okay, and I want to say to you why.
That's when you have to start.
St. Lucians, whether they're members of my party or members of the Labour Party, okay, have a sense of fairness. There has never been and will never be the decision by my government to have elections in a state of emergency.
During the most recent sitting of Parliament, Prime Minister Alan Chasney stressed that the selection of a date for the polls will be guided by when St. Lucians can vote in the safest way possible. He reiterated that the government will not go contrary to the Constitution. Based on the Constitution, elections are due by early October, when the SOE will still be in place unless it is revoked by the Governor General. As noted by Independent Senator Adrian Auger, without a doubt, elections under an SOE will not be what the country is used to.
Any restriction on civil liberty has to be taken as such. It is a restriction on civil liberty. It's in an election season where you have prohibited the mass crowd gatherings and the assembly of people. I think the current limit is now 50. Clearly that is going to have implications for traditional campaigning, and if there's also a curfew, then it means that that also puts a limit on time and what time people have to get home and all the rest of it. Given that there is a traditional pattern of campaigning in our general elections since the beginning of time, we have to be concerned that it changes the way that people are going to go about interacting with communities, constituencies, and so forth. That in itself is not a problem because it changes the status quo for both parties. But it is the power to change the status quo without consultation, and that is what is of great concern to me.
Meanwhile, former Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony contends that rules must be established to guide what may be an unprecedented election.
General election don't belong to the governing party, you know. General elections in the same way don't belong to the opposition. They don't belong to us. They belong to the people of St. Lucia in the final analysis, because it's the opportunity for them to make their final statement about the future of this country. And really what should have been happening, particularly in this COVID period, even in the light of this so-called extension, that both political parties should have been able to sit together, even under the guidance of independent persons, and agree on the ground rules for the campaign that has to emerge during this period.
During last week's Parliament, the Prime Minister expressed his intention to work with the opposition and independent individuals to outline protocols for the next elections. For Choice News Now, Amani Mathre reporting.
Now, with Dr. Anthony and what he suggested has to happen was, like you just heard, people coming together, the opposition and the ministers coming together to decide what would be the ground rules for campaigning. And only earlier this week we saw that a leaked document, weeks after that suggestion was made by Dr. Anthony, a leaked document showing some of the suggestions from the Electoral Department of what the campaigning should look like. And that to me was surprising, because you have until July, middle of July, for some date to be called, and we have yet to understand what would be the campaign rules. And even now, what has been leaked is still a draft document. So I wonder too whether we're doing things at late notice. And we also remember that even with the date of elections, we know that the Prime Minister's father says the Prime Minister probably needed another months, years, because COVID stole the time away from them doing what they were supposed to do. And we know that the Prime Minister, you know, doesn't govern on his own. He has to take the advice of his father and of his boss, which is Guy Joseph. So, you know, we have to wait to see what comes out of that. But I think in everything, the edification, the education, I think, is important. And I also wonder, with COVID and the protocols that people have to be some distance apart, what would that necessarily look like? Would you have the patience to wait on a line longer than normal because probably the lines are longer, there are more protocols to be had? Would that frustrate you enough that you don't do it, you don't stay there and that sort of thing? It's interesting to see what that would look like and what the protocols are. So for that reason, I think, once again, for our edification, there are some PSAs on what voting would look like in during COVID.
The Electoral Department voters' safety COVID-19 protocols for the 2021 general elections. The safety of all voters is extremely important to the Electoral Department. On election day, remember to take along your mask. If you forget your mask, one will be provided for you. The use of face masks is mandatory for all persons involved in the election process and must be worn at all election locations. Face masks will be provided for all election officials, along with hand sanitizers. Upon entry, all voters will be sanitized at 2 posts, upon entry and before applying the indelible ink. All protocols regarding physical distancing will be maintained. There will be a queuing system within the 100 yards and beyond at the polling stations. All furniture and equipment used at the polling station will be sanitized periodically. Voting booths and pencils will be sanitized after each vote use. This is the voters' safety COVID-19 protocols for the 2021 general elections.
And I think these things would help, and maybe more videos, more PSAs, because people do want to know on the uncertainty of it all. And that is why I think I like Claudius Francis has been really posting some election tips in the past few weeks, and I think it has been really, really helpful to those people still uncertain. And I'll put some now just so we understand what that would look like. It says here, today's election tip: on election day, after marking your ballot, should the voter be of the view that you may have done something in error on the ballot, you are entitled to return to the presiding officer and request a replacement ballot without seeking any reason why you feel your ballot is spoiled. The presiding officer is obliged to provide you with a second ballot, whilst the first is placed in a special envelope marked spoiled ballot. It is an offense for the presiding officer to either inquire or to open the original ballot to check if it is in fact spoiled. Let's go to the next one. I'm telling you, it's interesting stuff. Your voter registration number is the number located at the rear of the ID card. It is this number which matters on election day. The number at the top, front top right-hand corner is your social security number. And another one, voting takes place between 6:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. Once you are on the line at 6 p.m., however, no matter how long the line, you will be allowed to vote, even if you actually cast your vote ballot at 7:30 p.m. So in all of what is happening, and Shasta can be scared how he wants, but it has to be called. People need to vote, and I'm sure, myself included, people are eager to vote. So I think the edification, the education is important as well. Even as we know the facts, even as we know all the issues, being ready to do that, I think, is important. And I think something else is the fear that some people have, where, you know, people worry. We've spoken about vote buying, we've spoken about election fraud, we've spoken about all these things, and some people still unsure, still wary of, you know, certain people within an administration who perhaps could be desperate enough, they think, to do things that are illegal, to find some maneuvering, using people in certain positions to make sure that they do not lose in what appears, at least, to have them scared off, and when they know that people are frustrated, people want them gone, the chance that Shastni has to go and everything else might be too much for some to leave to chance. So I think it is important that we understand what are the measures put in place to circumvent some of these things. And you know what, we're going to take a look, or listen at least, to Claudius Francis once again on what exactly is in place, how can you circumvent some of these things, and what really can you do. And that's happened in the past, where police officers are told, hey, this person is trying to buy my vote, or this person is doing something on election day, and people dismiss it. And police officers, and these are the reports that we've gotten, is that police officers will say, oh, that ain't nothing, that's just people talking, never mind that, whatever, to just dismiss that. What happens this time around? Will we see that, and what will we do about it?
Morning, Mr. Francis.
Morning.
I'm calling in connection with the electoral department, and I know you are past, I don't know if you're present, commissioner, right?
No, past commissioner.
Past commissioner. There is a situation where ID cards, my bird just said that this to me yesterday. ID cards were taken from Marion home by political operatives. That's one. And then number two, I am from VA4, and I understood that there are over 2,000 new people registered, new citizens registered in VA4. And VA4 is a community that don't have much activity. But what would have all these people moving to changing location and address? And is there a process by which people change their address, or anyone could just change their address?
There's a lot of questions. Yadi, you can register or attempt to register wherever you want. That does not mean you're going to succeed, because as long as the people within the constituency do what they're supposed to do, which is to peruse the voters list every so often, it would be virtually impossible for somebody to register in a new constituency if they did not qualify. Now, what does it mean to qualify? Okay. So, let's assume you live in Dennery right now, but things are tight for the other party in Vieux-Fort. So they try to get you and Jaim to go to Vieux-Fort to register. That's fine, but it's not going to work, because the law talks about what is called a qualifying date. Now, there are two qualifying dates in our Elections Act. The 15th of February each year and the 15th of July each year. What does that mean? We are now in March. Let's assume the Prime Minister decides to call the election any day before the 15th of July. What that would mean is for Yadi and Jaim to be able to change their residence. They would have to do it under the Act 2 months before the qualifying date to vote in any election before the 15th of July this year. So it would mean if the qualifying date for the first half of the year is 15th of February, you would have had to be registered and residing, not just registered, residing in Vieux-Fort by 2 months would be 15th January, 15th of December last year.
Last year.
So you couldn't just go there now and pretend you're living with your mother or your sister and say you've changed residence. Even if they can prove that you were living with your mother or sister, you would not have met the qualifying requirements of having begun residing with your mother or your sister from December last year. So you would have to have been there from December last year. Now, if the people in the constituency are doing their jobs, they would be able to prove you have not been there before December.
Okay.
So it's not an easy thing.
Okay.
Okay. And with the ID cards, I'm taking ID cards of patients at Marion home, allegedly.
Well, I don't know what useful purpose that serves. First of all, you are not there with the person when they go to vote. Now, what they have done in the past, Yadi, with these ID cards is they take the ID cards and they go to the voting booth on election day and they say to the presiding officer that the person is illiterate, the person cannot vote for themselves, so they will vote for the person. So that has happened in the past. And I can think of several instances where the police have been alerted, but because of who the police officer was, they did nothing.
I can't stay.
We can win this war. Get vaccinated. We're taking our life back. Get vaccinated.
Nou ka mene vaksin lan kont COVID-19 an komi nou. Si ou pon vaksin lan, ou pe pa trape kor ou tan malade ke si ou pa pon. E ki jis sa bese asou ka COVID-19. Pon vaksin lan pou la vi set lisi viye normal anko. Visite page Facebook pou Bureau Edukasyon Santé ek Ministre pou Santé pou sav ki jou vaksin lan kanyan komi nou. An nou ede mene set lisi normal anko. Pon vaksin lan, ale vaksine.
Vaccinated.
Commission sa la sorti hot Bureau Éducation Santé ek Ministre pour Santé.
Protocols for international visitors while in St. Lucia. The following protocols are established to guide the stay of all guests while on island in order to mitigate any possible spread of infection. During the first 14 days, visitors are allowed to patronize approved beaches, restaurant, sea and land excursions, and sites and attractions. All visits are scheduled and pre-arranged by their respective accommodation providers. During this period, all visitors will be transported to and from the certified sites using only COVID-19 certified tourism transportation. After the first 14 days, if any visitor wishes to stay on island beyond the 14-day period, they must apply for and receive a health clearance certificate from the Ministry of Health. Visitors will be allowed to travel, be out in the wider public and patronize local businesses unsupervised once health clearance certificates have been received. During their entire stay, visitors must wear their masks whenever they are in public places and maintain the mandatory 6 feet distancing from others.
Watching UTV, TV for you.
I am remembering just how the demeanor of Mr. Joseph during that time. The guy Joseph that I know, how would I have described him before? He doesn't back down. He wouldn't back down to a challenge. And again, that is why, like the lady who called earlier said, the mercies of God. I saw the hand of my God restrain my husband. Restrain. To the point where somebody a while ago, one of the family members sent a message to my phone and he said, this is not the guy that I know. The guy that I know would welcome the challenge.
Yeah.
But again, God sees further than we can see. And he saw that whatever the possibilities were, whatever that could have ensued, would not be good for either party. And so he used his power to restrain him and to keep him under subjection for the time being.
And that is why I don't do good for me to get reward from people. I do good and I try to be honest, because I know there's one person alone that rewards your good, and that is God. But I never blame other people for what happened to me. I always take my responsibility. Champagne, this is not Guy Joseph that handled that situation on Saturday. When I got home, I said to Wendy, that's not the Guy Joseph that I know. The Guy Joseph that I know would have taken this thing head on. And I will say to St. Lucians, for those who don't believe in miracles, you know, when Wendy, you know what Wendy said to me? Wendy said to me, remember the time when Jesus was in the temple and the crowd was so furious that they were going to take him to throw him over a cliff and they would have killed him right there. But his time for dying and his manner of dying was not to, and God just caused them not to see him. Now, I don't want anybody to think for one moment that I'm comparing myself with Jesus.
Amen.
That was Wendy's words. She said to me, the same way God clouded their vision that they could not see him, she said to me, this is what happened in the church.
Yeah, I believe
this
that.
is what happened.
So Guy Joseph there, well, he's saying his wife likens him to Jesus, and you know that he has changed and become a better person. Of course, what's his name? Champagne doesn't say wow, he says amen, amen. So that again was Guy's response initially, right after the incident with Joachim Henry, saying that he's changed for the better, and this is not him. And his wife, as you could clearly hear and see, speaking of the change that comes about and the miracle when people can change to be a better person. That was a few weeks ago. This week, though, and as we've seen weeks after, that Guy Joseph and the others United Workers' Party operatives have been clamoring for Joachim Henry to be arrested, for police to do something about it. And we remember as well last week when the police saying, Joachim Henry and your wife, there is no need to come to the station as they said initially. We'll talk to the lawyers instead. So maybe that got them angry. Maybe I remember also Champagne wanted the police officers on his show to say something definitive, say that they're going to arrest Joachim, say that he is a criminal. That didn't happen. So what has happened now? We are seeing people that we haven't seen in a while come out of the woodwork. We are now hearing stories of things that happened over 10 years ago, supposedly, and Guy Joseph is there once again, making sure that it all happens. And for me, I struggled about whether to really play this. So let's go straight into the clip.
Yes, and I must say, right, I kept silent up to tonight because I know the gentleman well, I know his family well. We attended the same Seventh Adventist congregation in Therefore, so his children know my children well. My children and his children grew up together. I mean, his deceased son, Josima, being a doctor, my daughter is in a final year studying medicine. They used to speak quite a lot and so on. So I respected that, right? Also, when his son passed away, I did pay him a visit. Okay, I mean, I played no hypocrisy. I played him a visit. I consoled him, etc. All right, and so on, as the brothers of the same faith. Okay, but I was very disappointed when I saw what happened in the Forestier Church after that. Yeah. Okay, but then again, I realized it was just deja vu. Oh boy. It was something that I had witnessed firsthand at the Therefore SDA Church. Okay, and Champagne, that year was 2009, 2010. Right? Now, the church have its policies, right? Yeah. So I believe, Champagne, I'm speaking tonight about this thing because I've given the gentleman enough time to heal himself. Yes. He has buried his son, etc. And certainly he has showed all signs of moving on because he's actively campaigning in the constituency and doing whatever is possible, okay? But I also believe that I have a moral responsibility to let St. Lucians know that what has happened before, Okay, because these are people who are going and putting up themselves for public office.
In other words,
saying that they are the right person to represent you.
In other words, what has happened before is not a mistake.
Oh no, and I will give you the details, right? It was a Sabbath morning just the same. Okay? Now the Adventist Church have its policy and its principles. If you're not a baptized member of the church, you cannot function as an officer of the church. Okay? So his son, the very son who died, right? Must have been about 15 years then. Okay, good musician, was playing the organ, always playing the organ in the church and so on. But the pastor is the one who leads the church, the district pastor. And the pastor goes by the principles and teachings of the church, right? So the pastor keeps saying, listen, well, your son is not baptized. You know, speaking to the young boy, we need to get you baptized and so on. But he was not baptized. He didn't get baptized then. I don't know if he did after. Maybe he did. But at that stage, he was not baptized, but was playing the music in the church. So there's this reverend time in the church called divine service, divine hour and so on, where you're going up for preaching and all that stuff. And it's only baptized official members who officiate, right? So that time was coming, and I think the pastor went up, had a discussion, you know, on the pulpit and so on, and the young man was playing the organ. So the pastor said that you need to step down from playing. Someone who's a baptized, who's an officer of the church needs to play the organ, right? I was standing outside of the church speaking to somebody. My wife was inside, my children was inside the church and so on. And I just heard this big uproar, you know. Oh, pastor, you can't come here and do that. You can't come here and do that. Okay, not here. You're not doing that here. Okay, and when I rushed. Everyone started getting on, you know, get up the same way, and you heard this big uproar. So I rushed towards the church. And my family is inside, so I didn't know what is going on. And I saw the gentleman in question, Joachim Henry, okay, in that big uproar in the church and walking towards the pulpit, towards the pastor. And he was followed by another member of his family, another young man who was supporting him doing that. They got up close enough to the pastor, and he said to the pastor, you need to get off the stage or else I'll slap you. What? You know, these are things I heard, you know. All right, I will slap you on the stage
with everyone there.
Oh, but it was church was ongoing, my brother. Church was ongoing, right? And it had to take some of the elders of the church who rushed up to him and held him, right, to prevent him from getting to the pastor, because he said that he would not stop until the pastor get off the stage, or else he would slap the pastor and get him off the stage, right? So they had to restrain him that time and so on. By that time, the old people at the stage, you saw some people started screaming, some started kneeling down and praying, some of the old people.
But the man have malediction.
Some of the young people. Some of the young people, okay, rushed out of the church and so on, and service just ended abruptly. The pastor was frozen on the pulpit, like he was in shock. He did not know what to do. Someone had to escort him into the vestry, right? That happened, and needless to say, it is around the same time of the day, because your incident happened just during
minutes to 11.
Minutes to 11, and you were doing the lesson study. So after the lesson study comes the divine hour. So it was around the same time period. So when that happened, church mashed up for that day, my brother, completely. Okay, because the gentleman said it's not in that congregation that particular pastor come in and do that, although the pastor is the district pastor for the church. So it didn't end there. Church mashed up for that day. Right, people were visibly upset and so on. So the whole thing was reported to the mission of the Adventist Church, just the same. There was a church board meeting, which is the process, right? So if you have a matter, the way it is, it's similar to a democratic process, just like you have in elections for a candidate and so on. That if you have an issue, you take it to the church board make a recommendation, then the church board take it to the general body for a vote. Okay? So the church board met, and they made a recommendation to sanction the two gentlemen. Okay? So in other words, they were going to take disciplinary action. They recommended disciplinary action against him, right? So then what is called a business meeting of the church was called on a Monday night. It was. Right, they call a business meeting of the church, and the subject of the business meeting, he would have been notified, the other gentleman would have been notified, is to vote as to whether they should be sanctioned, meaning that they should not be members of the church for a certain period of time, and so on. Okay, so him knowing that it's a democratic process and it is voted by majority, you know what the gentleman do? The man just go outside there and lobby all his friends who are members of the church. Now, mind you, in all those small churches, you always find one family being the larger family in the church, the dominant family. So in the therefore SDA church, it is the Henry's family from the whole therefore area. So people who had not seen in church for a long time, but their names were still on the books, they were not disfellowship. So he went and he lobbied everybody, right? Brought in everybody. The president of the mission then, Pastor Johnson Frederick, was the one who oversighted over the business meeting for the disciplinary hearing and so on. I went there that night. I never saw church so packed on a Monday night. Okay, it was, they had more people than they had a normal church service on a Saturday. So he rallied these people to vote for him. So when it was put to the question, to the vote, okay, all right, his people voted against sanctioning him. That's where all the legalities could be, voted against sanctioning him. And I can tell you, so he got away with it. He got away with it and so on, and he could have visibly seen that the president of the mission was not happy, was upset. But it's what happened to that congregation after that make it worse, Okay? The first elder of that particular church, a gentleman who lives in the Mondido area, you know who I'm talking about? He was the first elder for the church there for over 15 years. He was so visibly upset that he transferred his membership as a result of that incident from that congregation to the Bocage SDA church. That's where he worships up to a day like today. Okay? You had a number of other people, young people, who tell you they're not coming to church there again if these things would happen, and they left the church. Right? There are other persons who transferred membership to other areas. You should see the condition, my brother. That particular congregation has never recovered from that incident. Never recovered. Okay? That you have right now, if you go there, you hardly could see young people in the church. They don't come, they don't participate. You see only a few adults and so on and so forth in that particular thing. And all that the pastor did, what the pastor did was in accordance to the teachings and the principles of the SDA church. Okay? He simply was enforcing what are the teachings of the church. You cannot be a non-baptized member of the church and for it to be officiating. Okay? Okay?
Now, as I said, I struggled with the decision on whether to air that. But I found in the end that, I think we would have to. We would have to show exactly how far, how low I think the politics and certain politicians can get. Timothy Mangal comes out of the woodwork. We haven't seen him in forever, except I guess when he's taking the $600,000 that he has to take for the roads that he's making. The bobble he's doing, that's what he's doing. He hadn't taken his money, okay, fine. But now he comes out and begins by saying that Joachim Henry's son, who died, was friends with his daughter. They probably went to school together because his daughter's studying medicine. He went to the Henry home to express condolences. In all of that, in all that time, and in a man and a family grieving, Timothy Mangal on his own decides he has given enough time to a father grieving over his son, that the time has passed, he's probably stopped grieving, so now let the politics begin. That's not politics, that's dirty. That's dirty, Timothy. And I feel like, I'm telling you, I struggle with that because I want to know whether I want to put that kind of negativity, whether we need to put that out there, but I feel like I trust the public, and I don't know if that will work for them, for Guy to be sitting there and Timothy Mangal and the Askis of Champagne to sit there and speak on a man, and more than not just the man, but speak on the name of a son, on the name of a man who has died in his late 20s, died, and speak about something that supposedly happened when he was 15, Timothy Mangal. And when people talk about this will be the dirtiest election, people feel it's a joke. Speak on a man and say that he has maledicture. Send words for a man that is grieving. And I think it is despicable. And I think when I put it out there, and you'll tell me because we'll be opening the lines a bit later on so that we could discuss this, what do you think of this entire thing? And just what Joachim Henry was saying and what he accused Guy Joseph of when he came in that church, of using his son's name to campaign for election purposes, for political points. And if he says that there are voice notes, if they have to come out, maybe they'll come out. But what I do know is that watching that clip exposed exactly that Joachim Henry was right in saying that Pisite have fet, if that's why he was angry. And even now, that is what is being done with the name of his son that has died. And y'all can use that. And Timothy Mangalka Vinlaka Guye, laughing as he speaks about God. What then takes precedence? Is it, are you a Christian? Or is it Christian or politics? And it's a kind of dirty politics playing there. When is all the Christian and all the scripture and everything you're quoting, when does it come into play? When does it come into the way that you guys are thinking, in the way that you conduct yourself as politicians? How can that be right? I want no part of it. I'm telling you, I sat there and I watched that. I'm like, Trisha, even if you're going to play it, maybe maybe you're just adding to it, but I don't think so. I think when I'm airing it, I want you guys to know, I want everyone to know that this is the worst. This is the worst kind of politicians. This is what they talk about when they say dirty, when there is no empathy, when there is no feeling, when everything is just about winning at any means necessary. And Guy Joseph Kaivin di lako bodie. Famnika di lako bodie. Because you turn around a new leaf and people are seeing how miraculous it is that Guy has changed. I'm guessing the police that you wanted to arrest Joachim and his wife, that didn't work out. So now you're trying something else. And if it works, if this works for you, if solutions fall for that, if we have lost our humanity enough to not empathize with someone in that time, and now you're trying to come, Timothy Bangal Wallace, to come there on the show and speak on that, you know what, then if that's okay with you, and if you see nothing wrong with that, then they are right. They are right, and you know, what the hell is humanity anyway? We have nothing to talk about. But it really does show me that in all of your talk and all of this rhetoric about spirituality and, you know, the religion that you guys seem to care so much about, it doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't factor in when you guys doing that nastiness that you continue to do. The man is grieving his son, and who are you, Timothy Mangal, to tell somebody when the grieving should stop? It is unnatural, and you will tell me, for those unfortunate enough to feel, to survive, your children, to bury your child in the ground, it is unnatural. It is not the natural order of life. Who are you to tell anyone that they should stop grieving, or, you know, they're campaigning now and people trying to go on with their lives? Who are you to say that? And you're laughing and smirking and making this a joke. If it works for y'all, I know if solutions will listen to that, hear that, and do what you want them to do, and feel this sort of fake outrage and whatever else. For me, when I saw that, I was disgusted. I was disgusted that you guys would sink that low. We're going to take your calls now. We can talk about anything you want at 572-7588, or we can speak via WhatsApp at 484-7588. I have faith in St. Lucians that they will see right through that. And, you know, trying the political maneuvering and see which one will work best. The police at work, and, you know, Champagne wanted the police to arrest Joachim, but now, you know, that didn't work out last week. They're saying, let's talk to the lawyers instead. That's not enough for them. You want to embarrass still. You want to bring it out in the... You want to take everything out of it. And I do not think it is right. Let's take the call. Good morning.
Yeah, morning, Trisha.
Good morning, sir.
That's Frank here.
Hi.
Trisha, I called another program some time ago, and the only adjective I could have found to describe Guy Joseph as is evil. This man is evil. Now, he has found an ally in Timothy Mangal. Guy Joseph knows that if he gave that story, you have to understand the political maneuverings that are there. If Guy Joseph gave that particular story, it will not get traction, it will get dismissed immediately. Okay? So he's using Timothy Mangal, which is as evil as him, to come and put out that story. But I have to say something here. In 2016, Guy Joseph seems not to be bothered with Henry because Litima Pipia. But something tells me deep inside that Joachim Henry is posing a lot of difficulty for Guy Joseph to win the next election. I don't know if you feel that way too. They tried, as you said, they tried the police, they tried this, they tried that, and they're going to try other things. And if you saw the news, the term in Yadi's program, where the lady was saying that there were Guy Joseph supporters in Mac that rallied with him for years. And now they're saying enough is enough. I wonder that if that is what the problem. But it's rather unfortunate that Timothy Mangal would step in the same presentation there that the church has a way of conducting its business inside. But yet still, he took it. That was conducted inside, eh? He took it 10 years or whatever. A guy called the alley this morning. He didn't identify himself, but he said what Timothy Mangal is saying, that it is not true. And he told Rahim he's going to give him the number, they're going to talk afterwards. He said what Timothy Mangal is saying that is not true. He's a member of the Adventist Church. So, you see where that political maneuverance is going? So now, we are stuck with Timothy Mangal saying that, rather than focusing on CHTTI and the Pajoa letter, which has Guy Joseph's name written all over it. Now, if Guy that he just saw the letter in the media, I just saw the letter in the media and just circulating, I don't know if it's my name. And then you go in the house and you say, I signed up a letter. And now a letter coming to you from Mr. Wong, addressing it to you, that we're ready to give you money. Should I believe what Guy Joseph and Mongal just said there? I will not believe them. This is just smoke screen. What Guy Joseph did to go and give a man a letter in my name, because I'm a taxpayer, in my name, in your name, Trisha, and in other listeners' name, that is fraudulent. That is fraud. And Guy Joseph needs to answer for that. And he will answer for that whenever Alan Shastry calls the election. I want to bet anybody out there, I'm not putting my figures on no piece of plywood. Come and face me. Guy Joseph is losing to Joachim Henry.
Thank you very much, caller. I appreciate your contribution. Let's take the other call. Good morning.
Good morning, Trisha. How are you?
Good morning. Can you speak a bit louder, please?
Yeah. How are you, Trisha? How is everything?
I don't know. I good today. I don't know. I feel very sad.
Let me tell you. I listening to Mangal, and you know Mangal, all the talk he's talking is like that man line, because he can't even watch the camera. He cannot even watch the camera from what I'm seeing, and his eyes always down. Now that's the one for that. I want to ask Guy a simple question. I would like to ask Guy if he can remember when he was Minister of Communication and Works. I want to ask Guy why the police had to stop him, which the police came with a guy with some documents. I want to ask Guy why the police had to stop him and come out from the vehicle and give it to the fellow back. I want to ask Guy that, because I don't think a lot of people can remember that. That happened just by shock it happened. He was just going to work. I want Guy to answer that question to everybody. Alright? Now, what happened, it was alleged thing that happened between he and the guy. So the guy could not take it again. Apparently it was Mama guy in the guy. So the man went with the police, with all his document, and that's the year. Guy never told us St. Lucia how much the road from Shop to Bambono was costing. And apparently it was A&M was building that road. Is at the last moment he came with $12 million the road was costing. You see that man, and I'm telling you, a friend of mine told me, every person who have intentions or have a reason of doing things, in what they have been doing for how many years, is in that they will be going to die. And Guy Joseph going to take a jail because of that same fraud, dishonesty and vindictiveness where money is concerned. That's what will end up Guy to jail. And I'm calling on Mr. Philip J. I know you can't say much, but I know you know all what you have to do. Because you want to go do action go. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And as we're going to take the call in a while, before we do, I'm receiving messages here from people within that congregation, people who actually sat on the same board when that happened. And this person says, Mangal only comes to church end of year and talk about how much money he makes. He wasn't there when that situation happened, and that's not the way the situation happened. The man never threatened the pastor, and he wasn't wrong. That's why the church went against it and did not sanction him. The person also said, I sat on the church board then, but I can tell you for sure that Mangal is a liar. I hate the person says that these people lie so blatantly. So you can hear it there from people within that congregation there at the time that the situation did not happen. There was no threat to the pastor, and that's why the church did not sanction and go against him, like he said. So these people are so disgusting. I want no part. And Dio say Christian way. Let's take the call. Good morning.
Miss Rachel Mado. Trisha.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian myself. Okay? But let me tell you what the book of Jeremiah said. The heart of man is desperately wicked. Who else can know it? That's what Jeremiah tells us. Seeing Mangal speak of Mr. Joachim Henry there, I don't want to use the word disgusting. I think it's too poor. Political trash are these guys. That's what these guys are. Political trash. These guys are looking for ways and means. But when you was at school, the teacher gave you a story to read and tell you write about it. Yes, you did. You come back to give the teacher a story. And then the teacher sits back and tell you, look, now that you have wrote your story, tell me the story about what the book that I gave you. And that's the problem. These guys are trying every way, in my Lion King voice, deflection, that's what they are doing. They are deflecting from the fact that they have a story that they need to talk about and they don't want to talk about it, the Pajoa letter. And I agree with you, yes, we have to talk about it, continue to talk about it until election day. That's what we want to hear about, the Pajoa letter. Solutions, I know as you ask, you hope that they take your story, supposed to or not how Guy wants to bring it out. I hope St. Lucians take that story of what Mangal did there. Take it, fold it like paper, shit in the can, and ask them to read the real story of the Pajoa letter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Let's take the other one. Good morning. Good morning, caller. Good morning, caller. I think, no, let's wait. She's still there? The person's still there? I don't know why you think it's a woman. Good morning, caller. Okay, well, we have to let you go. I don't know what's happening there. But, like you said, I think with the last caller saying that this is just some kind of deflection from Pajoa, I would agree with you, but I do think that it's not just a deflection. I think they're directly targeting Joachim Henry, and they've been doing it for months now, and this is just a new law that they have gotten, that they are trying. And for me, I am interested in what you feel. Will you feel outraged of the story that Timothy Mangal has said that other people already saying that is not the way that things are happening, that there was no threat to the pastor? Will you believe that? Will you fall for the righteous indignation bullshit that it wants you to do? Or will you see it for what it actually is? Just people seemingly without a soul, without a conscience, without empathy, without a just trying to kick a man while he's down. Let's take the other call. Good morning.
Good morning, Tresha.
Good morning, sir.
Tresha, I'm inclined to believe your first caller, Frank. I'm inclined to agree with him when he said that Guy is probably feeling that his re-election chances are in trouble this time around. So he's pulling out all the stops, including lying like never before, including recruiting liars like himself, liars like Timothy Mangal, to come out there to do all of this dirty work on his behalf, Guy Joseph's behalf, to ensure that he gets re-elected. You know, Tresha, like you said, I mean, look, I've never felt so nauseated in all my life in terms of this kind of these political shenanigans. Tresha, and you didn't have to read out all of that stuff coming from those people who said that they attended that church service, that they were members of the church, and what Guy Joseph and Timothy are saying is not the truth. Because by now the whole of St. Lucia ought to know that Guy Joseph and Timothy Mangal are liars, deceivers of the highest order, and Guy Joseph and Timothy Mangal are doing that sort of thing to try to distract people, deflect from this Pajua letter scandal, this Pajua letter corruption. Look, if people didn't think before that Guy Joseph was saying he is, I think the responses from the Answer Bank in Trinidad, I think that finally said it. Because remember in the first letter, when Guy Joseph wrote the letter on behalf of Max Joannes, when the letter came out, he denied it. He denied that he had written that letter, written and signed the letter. He said that, look, all I know is that letter doesn't exist in my ministry. And people can use technology to forge people's signatures. Now, some people may have bought that. But along comes the response from the Answer Bank in Trinidad and Tobago. And I think that sealed in a lot of people's minds that Guy Joseph actually wrote that letter. I mean, when you commit, not just the government, but the people of this country to a debt of $170 million, which our grandchildren and their own children will have to pay back, money that may not even see the light of day because it would probably disappear into pockets. And that's the character of Guy Joseph. And I think that letter from the Answer Bank of Trinidad and sealed Guy Joseph's character in the minds of a lot more people. And so he's feeling the heat, and so he believes that he has to pull up all the dirty stops, all the nasty stops, all the disgusting stuff that he can think of to try to smear his political rival, Joachim Henry. But I'm saying to you, like Frank said, I don't think this is going to work, because the people of St. Lucia, and especially the people of Southeast Castries, have finally seen through Guy Joseph, and this will not work. Thanks, Tresha.
Thank you very much, caller. Let's go to our, I think, final call. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi. Wow, it's so difficult to get the line to you. It is my first time calling.
Thank you for doing so.
But my concern is not just, the issues that these guys are bringing out as it pertains to the attitude of Joachim Henry at the church, or whether this thing has happened before. My real concern is the face of the church that these guys are destroying. And constantly, this politics has found itself on the pulpit of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and that is concerning to me. Because the truth about it is, a situation occurred, and the church has its functions, its way of operating. For instance, I heard Timothy Mangal speak about censorship, and he called it sanction. It's not sanction, it's censorship, where you are made silent. And it is not an action taken where you are removed from the church for a while. It is just that you are silenced for a while. That's what censorship means. And if, based on the situation that he spoke about, the pastor did not have a responsibility to take that action at that time, except that this had been spoken about before. So I'm very concerned that they are presenting the church in a bad light. And the church has tried its best to remain silent on the political issue, and they continue to bring the church into this political issue. I think now the action that should be taken, and I'm not blaming Mr. Henry, because I do not hear Mr. Henry speaking. I hear Guy Joseph, I hear Timothy Mangal. Action should be taken against them at the church, that they can be silenced. It is not right for them to be speaking about the church in that manner. And I'm really angry about it, because the truth about it is the gospel that we are preaching, trying to save souls, is being tainted now by these men. And that cannot be right and cannot be allowed, as far as I'm concerned.
And so I'm just asking, are you a member of the church? That particular denomination? Mm-hmm.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And that is why I'm so disappointed and so displeased at what is happening. Now, I do not want to speak on the political matter with the whole situation, because the president of the mission has already spoken on it.
But why do you think it's difficult? Why do you think it's difficult for the elders, leaders in the church to silence or to do anything with Guy Joseph particularly?
Well, you see, with Guy Joseph's situation, if it is not a situation that is taken to court, right, and that he is proven guilty in any regard, then the church cannot take action against him and ask him to stand down. As a matter of fact, the system of the church is operated in such a way that it is his local congregation who is supposed to make the decision against him. And you heard Timothy Mangal speak about that, where he can rally members of the church who are supportive of him to vote on his behalf. So it's not a situation where the mission president can actually make a decision and censure Guy Joseph. It is a situation where you have to appeal to the local church, the board of the local church, and the body of the church, such as the members, are the ones who are to vote to bring him out. Because remember, Guy Joseph was voted into the congregation through baptism. Then he was voted to be accepted in the congregation. The same process has to go in order for him to be removed. So the church is a church that is properly situated, and the way it is being presented as if the church has any authority over a single individual or any single person has authority over the church. That's not how it works. The church has a secured system where people cannot be victimized. Now, there are situations concerning Guy Joseph that had been presented before in his behavior with the church that I would not care to say, because it's not about slinging mud. It is about the church's name being brought into disrepute, and the gospel that we are preaching are not reaching people anymore because of the behavior that is being expressed. People are now beginning to disbelieve the gospel of the church, and that is wrong.
Cole, I want to thank you very much. Thank you very, very much for your contribution. I hear what you're saying, and I think the viewers, the listeners, they are too. And I think you do have a point where, all of it seems like just insincere, all this talk of God, and even when Guy's wife speaks about it, and Timothy Mangal speak about religion while they are kicking a man while he is down. But I think in all of what we have discussed there, and we've come to the end of the show, but before we close, I just want us to remember that in all of this, and in the dirty mudslinging, as you called it, Calder, that we must not forget that this is because of a man a young man, a doctor, dying in his late 20s. And that is where we should be thinking, to be having empathy for parents, for a family that's been grieving. And I say shame on you, Timothy Mangal, for saying that, you know, you took your time and you gave him time to grieve. So now he is ready for the onslaught of lies and untruths and disgusting behavior coming out of you. And as for Guy Joseph, I don't know whether it's worked. Well, it's worked for you for the past 15 years or so. So now you continue to go into the dirty politics. But I think you have gone too far. This is it. This is not human anymore. And I think Frank used the right word, it's evil, it's wrong. And even as we continue, and hopefully we'll see each other, Sibodivli, tomorrow at 11, let's keep in mind that Joshua Henry has died, and there are people behind that death. There are people still grieving, and who will grieve forever because of that. So let's keep that in mind as well, even as the politics and people are doing some dirty stuff. That is what we need to keep in mind. But I'll see you tomorrow at 11.
I'm just going to tell you my last discussion with Josima the Friday before he passed. Friday to Saturday, or Sabbath hours, which starts from Friday at my home, from even before we have kids, what we do is music. We sing. And if you grew up at my time at Therefore, everybody played an instrument. I played the guitar. But if you come to my home, you would believe I play a lot more than the guitar, because they have every instrument you could think of at my house, because I believe in music. So everybody's exposed to instruments, from violin, saxophones and keyboards and drums and everything. And I even buy small ones that you would not find here. I purchase them and I bring them home, like mouthful guns and shots. Anywhere I travel and I see an instrument, I would take it home. So that's what we do. So on Friday before Josima passed, the Saturday generally would have been here to perform. So I usually select her song and rehearse with her. So then when she was doing the song, I put Josima on video. And I said, hey, Josie, give me your comments on Janely's, my last daughter Janely's song. I got it right. And he said, you know, Jan, I like how you sing that song. I like how you take the notes on the song, because it's a very difficult song. And then he said to me that, you know, when Janely is through, he would ask her to come and join him up there at the crossings where he performs. He said to Janely, the crossing will need you up there to sing. I'll call Janely at this time to do the song the last song she sang to Josima on Friday before he passed on Saturday. I know it's a difficult song, but I asked that she try to do it this afternoon.
I will have life eternally. clouds, this name speaks calm into my fears. And when I feel that no one loves me,